Wife tells me sometimes the car has an issue starting. I've never experienced it myself, but she's saying it's becoming more common. So she'll go to crank it and it'll, as if it just doesn't have enough grunt to crank it, and then she'll release it, start it again, and it works fine. So I thought I'd just pull the starter motor out and take a look at it, make sure it's not gummed up and getting sticky. And here it is, just pulled it apart to see if I can service it. Again, I'm extremely impressed at how it's put together. Look at that needle roller bearing down there. That's the main bearing that the main snout runs on. And yeah, it's just, it's a nice bit of kit. So I'm gonna clean it all up, lubricate it, and put it all back together, and it will probably go for another long period of time. So this top hat just comes off very easily. It's just got 3 locating tabs that hold that down. That allows us to get in, have a good inspection, and just see the condition of it, how we can clean it, and how we can lubricate it again. It's definitely had some grease, and we can see just how old that is as well. This is the original Bosch starter motor, which has got a state stamp on it of 2011. So it's done amazingly well. Should be able to give it a bit more life yet. Okay, so once we've got that top cover off, we can remove these planetary gears. And look at that, even these have little needle roller bearings inside them. It's no wonder why the starter motor has lasted more than 10 years. That's awesome. Always makes me wonder what's the best lubricant for this kind of situation here. With these roller bearings, I've just sprayed in some white lithium grease, and the idea is just want to try and get a bit of grease inside the roller bearing itself. So I've done that. Then the next thing I'm going to do is just use this extreme pressure grease, remembering that these devices turn fairly slowly in reality and infrequently. So extreme pressure grease is good for low speed movement. So I'm just going to then go through and apply some grease underneath and all around the planetary gears. Bit of extreme pressure grease. We can drop that back in place. So there we go, just a bit of that EP grease, and that looks like it's done a pretty nice job. So we can look at reassembling the rest of this stuff. And just a light smear on that cover plate before we pop that back in place. So now that top cover's on, that's going to hold everything together, and I can look at trying to get some grease down in here as well. I think I'll do the same. I'll spray some of that lithium grease, and then I'll add to that lithium a little bit of that EP grease as well. And now I just want to pack some of that extreme pressure grease into the needle roller bearing. Now, one other component worth talking about is this here, and this is a one-way bearing. So if I hold this shaft, I can turn it in this direction, but I cannot turn it back. So what this is designed is, while it's rotating to start the engine, it can do that, and then as soon as the engine starts, it can freewheel. So the idea of this is like a one-way bearing. I think they use them on alternators, modern alternators as well. So now we have packed the needle rollers in here with some of that extreme pressure grease. And now we should be able to put this all back together again. You can see this shaft as well, where those bearings have been riding on here, rattling around a little bit. So that grease is going to help that. I can't feel any of that stuff, so that surface is fine. But that is where the needle rollers run onto there. That's how that all goes together. I'm just pushing up on that plunger. So now let's have a look at the electrical motor. So it's always a bit scary pulling apart a DC motor that's got brushes, because you don't want to mess it up and pop the brushes out. So I'm just trying to get a good look down in here as to what these brushes look like. It looks like there's a fair bit of meat still left on them, and the commutator looks fine as well. So you can slide this out of the magnet housing without losing your brushes, which is pretty cool. Interesting too, we got a part number here. I wonder if this is available as a complete assembly to rebuild this unit. This is the end cap that holds everything together. You can see we got a little bronze bush in here. So I will lubricate that just with a little bit of oil. And it's held on very simply with a couple of, so first of all, there is a spacer washer, and then this very simple C-clip goes on, and then the back cover that goes on here holds that together. Obviously we need to align this with the holes like that, put it all back together. I'll drop some oil down on that bearing surface, bush surface. This is the end cap. There was evidence of there being some grease in there, some old grungy stuff, so I've cleaned all that out. We'll just put a little bit of the extreme pressure grease in there as well. Just giving it all a good spray out with some contact cleaner, just to try and get rid of all that residue of all the bits of friction material or the actual parts of the brush material. So I've cleaned all that out. It's actually come up real nice. I think we're ready to dry this out and get it all back together again. This also had quite a bit of the material in from the brushes as well, so I've just cleaned all that out with some degreaser and then sprayed it all out with some contact cleaner as well. And now we're ready for this to go back together. You can see that it really only goes one way. We got this notch here, matches up with this grommet. Those magnets are going to grip on the motor. So once, there we go, kind of sucks it all in. And that's it. And we put the two long bolts through. I've put a little bit of extreme pressure grease there where it goes on the planetary gears. But now this is all ready to go back together again. This is the contact cleaner that I've been using for this job. This is the main solenoid slug. I've just put a very light smear of grease on that. But this is the part that will go into here. And as that solenoid slides in and out, that's how that one works. Only goes one way. It pretty much only all goes back together one way. We'll wait till I get the motor on to work out exactly where this needs to be, but I'm pretty sure it's right there. Again, the slot here fits down into there, but we put this back together. I think I need two hands for this. Okay, two long bolts can go through, nut can go back on. and this bolt in the bottom. And they are 16mm. What I did with the electrical connection is, instead of removing the battery, I've just been very careful with it and put a couple of bags over the terminal. Make sure you don't connect that to earth anywhere. It goes onto the starter motor post, and then we've got the other earth terminal that goes down onto the bottom bolt. And they're both 13mm nuts. Just remember that that one has power on it. It basically goes straight to the battery. So make sure you don't short that out on anything when you're tightening it up. Be very careful with your ratchet or spanner. So just to get a better shot, this is the positive terminal. And now we need to make sure we slide this protecting cover up after we've tightened that nut up. And that will just push on the over the end of the stud to hold it in place. So once you get it in position, just push it towards it and that will lock in place on the stud. Now we can go and put the connector back on, and a little red locking tag which fell out. Okay, so it there goes in quite low and then just push it all the way home. Okay, now we can try and crank it. I won't start it out without the mass airflow sensor connected, so we'll just drop this box back in place as well.